What up, y'all? This is your boy Rockin' Mr. Magic, your host, along with my boy GB Greg Burnham, and this is another episode of Fanalysis 101. Welcome
Greetings.
back, G. How you feeling today, brother?
Oh, every day is gets better than the last one. So, I'm all right.
Cool, cool. We're gonna get right into this, y'all. So, if you have been under a rock or you don't keep up with American sports that well, we had a bowl that was superb. Um, You could call it a Philly cheesesteak bowl, um, because that's pretty much what happened. Um, the Kansas City Chiefs were the steak, and they got tenderized and they got devoured in a 40-22 massacre, in Super Bowl LIX. Um,
They passed out licks. Yeah.
if you watched our live stream on Super Bowl Sunday, um, we were both wrong. I predicted an Eagles win, but I didn't predict no Eagles blowout. Shout out to Dion Myers, who was in the chat, who actually did predict a
Blow up.
Eagles blowout,
Yeah.
um, which, much to our surprise, was the exact thing that occurred. And his score was, actually, he didn't even give the Eagles enough points. He said 35, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the Eagles got in that. Um, that was ugly. How are you feeling after just a drubbing? Like, that was not a pretty game to be a Kansas City fan for.
So here's my thing, man. I don't want to. I'm just gonna keep it real. I saw, you know, our president like shaking hands on the sideline of the Chiefs. And
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, whatever happens needs to happen. Like, there were certain things, it's like you just try to ignore because you're a fan. And this ain't like all the way about politics, but so, I mean, honestly, I was like, when the stomping started happening and it looked eerily similar to the Tampa Bay series, and
mm,
I text my homeboy like on the first drive, and I saw that pressure. I was like, Andy's gonna have to run the ball. He's gonna have to dedicate, like some time to running the ball to keep these people off of him. And in typical Andy fashion, he was like, "Man, I know that 5-step drop didn't work this time, but let me try it again and again and again. It's got to work the 30th time. Let's try it one more time." And so I was like, I kind of saw it early. Like, I think it's, I don't think the Eagles defense is as great as it looked
no,
Sunday
no,
because they haven't looked that great all year.
right.
And I
If
know,
you're gonna peak, that's the time to peak. But they haven't looked anywhere close to being that dominant all season.
and I know the Chiefs' offense wasn't as bad as it looked, but it's the fact that
Well,
well, I mean, nobody else was able to do that to them. But it's like you just like you have a subpar offensive line, and you have to run the ball. You gotta at least like make them hesitate.
you,
They
you gotta
coming
keep
off
them
that
honest.
line,
Yeah, you
yeah.
gotta make the defense play honest.
So like it was very early where I was like, this is about to be Tampa Bay again. And then it didn't help that Pat, kept throwing the ball to the wrong team.
I don't know
So
where he was throwing the ball. At one
like,
pick, the pick 60 to Cooper, I don't know who he was pretending to throw to. There wasn't a Chiefs jersey anywhere close.
yeah, that was that. They are my ass, man. I'm just trying to get this thing. So like, I ain't gonna lie, man. By like the middle of the second quarter, I was like, all right, I'm just excited to see the halftime show, and then I'll go about my business. Um, yeah, I was like, if all the Eagles got to do, like, just keep blitzing, keep throwing, and I not even blitzing because they were getting there with 4, like pretty
Yeah,
much the
they
whole
didn't
first
need to
half.
blitz. Yeah, that's just
Yeah,
the front four
it's
pressure.
like, and I'm not, but it felt like a blitz. It was like every time he snapped the ball, you just yelling fire, fire. So I don't know, but you have to be able to like tuck the ball and run to try to keep a defense honest.
But he didn't have any places to run because the front four was getting such a rush. I mean, there was a couple times they even kept Kelsey in to block, and he showed that he can't block. So
Man,
he
looked.
was like in the way more than even helping in the pass blocking scheme.
Yeah, I don't know if he's like if he's hurt or if he just got old that fast, but like it was glaring. Like even the few times he did catch the ball, like him moving and stuff, he used to be kind of swift out there. You know what I mean? No pun intended. Because I really didn't. But now he just like it was just I don't know. It was tough, man. But it's my thing. Like if you're not able to, like if somebody takes away your A, your plan A, you gotta be able to come with extra stuff. And
Yeah,
then
you
on
need
the other
plan B,
side,
plan C, whatever. You got to make it happen.
like regardless of the score, I think the Chiefs defense played pretty freaking well. Especially the first half. They were solid. They were stopping the run, but it was just,
I'll give you that. Yeah. They kept like the whole leading up to this. You multiple times on the show indicate that you were scared of Saquon Barkley. Saquon did not have a massive breakout game. He played fine, but he was not the X factor
right.
that most of us were all predicting him to be. They did a good job in keeping him from breaking out. Unfortunately, they dug themselves such a hole, and then turning the ball over doesn't help. And Philadelphia was just able to keep moving the ball and put up points.
Man, I'm trying to pull up. I didn't even look at the stats. I ain't gonna lie, man. As soon as that game was over, because it was just so terrible. It was such a horrible performance. So Mahomes' stats, besides the 2 interceptions, they don't look bad, but we saw the game.
Right.
And then Jalen Hurts.
It looked like a Dak Prescott game.
Right.
Where if you just look at the box score, you're like, well, he didn't have a bad game. But if you watch it, you'd be like, yeah, he didn't play that well.
In the same fashion, it's like you don't do anything until the fourth quarter when the game's out of reach.
Yeah,
and then
game's over.
And then you look at Jalen Hurts. You look at his stats. It doesn't look like he had that a great game, but he played very, very well. I think you also add those 72 rushing yards.
Well, Jalen Hurts is not. He's not Patrick Mahomes. And I hate. I'm going to borrow from Cam Newton. Jalen Hurts is more of a game manager type of quarterback, so he doesn't have to have a massive stat line to play well. And when you're a game manager like that, your job is to not turn the ball over, keep your offense moving, utilize the weapons around you, and that's pretty much it.
Make the necessary plays.
You make the necessary plays. Where Mahomes is more of a game breaker, and everything has to flow and run through him. And when he's not playing well, it's gonna show. And he can play poorly and still mass up a ridiculous number of stats, but he still didn't play well. And I mean, I've seen all these tweets about, because of how bad they lost, everyone's going to forget about this crazy pass that Mahomes had in the end of the game. I'm like, okay, yeah, it was a deep bomb. Worthy caught the ball, great pass
To the fastest combine kid that we've had, right?
Right.
And
but I was like, yeah, I mean, it means nothing. Like I guess you call it a highlight, but it was the only good passing play that we saw really in the entire game out of the Chiefs. And it was yes, Patty showed off the arm strength. I mean, he threw the
It was
ball.
great, but
Yeah, like
don't
he
even
threw the ball
have
like 70 yards. Like that, a big whoop-de-doo that brought them to the 22 points. Like who? Like,
right. But
I
who
mean, the
was
game was
like,
long over.
yeah, it was over. And I mean, who was, I didn't, we could go back and see who was on the line, but they clearly had already won the game. It was chilling. So,
Yeah, they weren't even trying that hard. I mean, it's. I mean, look, we criticize greats for stat padding and garbage time. So if we're going to criticize LeBron James for getting 16 points against the Sixers bench when they're down 20 something, then we're going to criticize Patrick Mahomes for 60-yard bombs when you're down 40 to 14 with
before,
less than 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Like
right.
we're not gonna praise you. We're not gonna boost that because they wasn't really trying. They're trying to
Right.
let this game get over with.
And like that brought them to turn it into a three score game.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
It was it was at that point it didn't really matter. So.
It did not matter. So yeah, big beef in Philly. Cheesesteaks win. Philly fans are only bad thing about this is Philly fans are insufferable. So
Yeah.
they're
Luckily,
just
most of my friends that are Philly fans are quite civilized, so that's cool for me
that's
because I
good.
don't have people, calling me and laughing at me. They understood it was a tender time, and I needed to go be alone for a little while. So,
It's just
cool.
though the wild ones are always screaming "Let's go Birds" and this and that, and I mean it's just like okay, yes, congratulations, just be easy, like it. Congratulations, you've got to like you still have the least out of all the teams in your division. You still have won the least Super Bowls. Like yeah, you won 2
Who?
recently.
Oh, the
Philly,
Eagles? Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
They've got less than the Giants, less than the Cowboys,
You're right.
less
I'm
than
not arguing.
Washington. Yeah,
You are
like
right.
but they talk like they're the biggest, baddest, best
Like they
thing
didn't just win
ever.
their first one a few years ago.
Right.
I get
Exactly.
it.
Like their two have, and that's great. Their two have been in recent memory, but let's not act like you went almost 70 something years, no, over 70 something years without winning one. So like
Right.
let's just pump the brakes on how great you are. Congratulations. You should be proud of your team.
And if they come back
But
with that same team next year, they're probably
and they'll still be dangerous. But pump the brakes on the big bravado,
yeah.
because most teams, most of the Super Bowl winning teams can claim more Super Bowls than you can. So like just be easy. Um, but congratulations to them. Um, where do you rank the Super Bowl? Because as a game, it really wasn't fun to watch. Like this is, in my opinion, got to be one of the lower rated as far as enjoyment. It had viewership, and then a lot of that viewership dropped off. I think the number was 1.5 million people turned off after the halftime show.
That's
um,
1.3 or something like that.
yeah, so they 1.3, 1.5, something like that. And I was, hey, Nielsen got me. I was one of them because I was like, this game is over. And I wanted to see the halftime show, and I knew I had to be up early for work. And I was like, yeah, this guy, I'm like, there's no way I'm watching the second half. And it was like, I'm going to go to bed. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, do I really think Kansas City is going to pull off the miracle of miracles the way they're playing? I was like, nah, I don't see it.
And if you would have stayed for like the first couple of possessions of the second half, you'd have known. There wouldn't have been any more wonder in your brain because it was over. I think so. The Tampa Bay, Brady versus Mahomes Super Bowl. I feel like that one, at least you could feel bad because it's like the Chiefs' whole offensive line was out. They were playing with backups, undrafted dudes. They were, this was the line that they went 15-2.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like this one, it's like for a minute you're like, okay, all right, what are they playing possum? They trying to catch them slipping.
Right.
Oh no, they're just getting
They're just getting
Dogs
trashed.
out. I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember the Different Strokes episode where the Gooch was bullying Arnold and Willis was like, I'm gonna go, take
We'll
care
handle
of
this.
it. And then the
Yup.
Gooch beat the hell out of Willis. That's what this was. It was like, and it's like you're like the defense, you're like, okay, but the defense is playing, they got a little pick, but it's like 3 and out, 3 and out. Come on, man. Where's the creative? Like, do some of that trickery stuff you be doing, Andy. It was like almost like Andy laid down or something. I don't know. But
I don't know if he felt that he owed Philly one, especially since they already beat him. Like, I don't know. But
where's the triple reverse, halfback option? Like, do something.
It was non-existent. That was some very vanilla play calling by the Chiefs.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't even all the way say that because a lot of the plays didn't get to material.
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't even know if the play got the chance to develop. That's a fantastic point.
But I mean, like you think about the quick hitters, like, and I think something has to be said because, we're watching from our angle or whatever. We're not seeing what Patrick Mahomes sees. And I'm pretty sure what he saw wasn't nobody getting open either. So as much as we talk about the defense, it's like.
Yeah, but you said it, you mentioned it. That he kept on having to do these 5-step drops. I'm sorry, Andy. Your whole career from offensive coordinator to head coach has been built on being a wizard of this West Coast offense, which is a quick 3-step drop, quick short pass offense. Why did you not try to nickel and dime this team, especially when their front four is rushing the way they are? You've got to get the ball out, and you've got to get it out in less than 2 seconds. You don't have time for Patrick to take 5 steps back.
Andy, we just got to double down. If the 5 ain't working, let's do a 7-step drop.
It was like he kept on like I don't know. I was going to try to make an Uno analogy, but one doesn't really work. But like instead of like getting the reverse card, he kept on drawing repeat.
Right. It reminds me of like when I was coaching AAU. I had a decent team, but we were playing against like the Atlanta Celtics, the team that Dwight Howard used to play for.
Yeah, Dwight Howard's old team. Yeah.
Josh Smith and them. So, like our tallest kid is like 6'3". We had a couple of others that were taller, but our tallest kid was 6'3". They had 6'8", 6'9". And it's like we was hanging with them for a minute, and then they, their coach realized, wait, we're way taller than these boys. We're Division I. I got a couple of kids that played like Division III type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, let's just bully them. And once they turned that switch, but I was trying stuff.
Yeah.
Like, let's switch it up, y'all.
Let's switch it up. They're easily throwing the pole. Let's front them, maybe. Let's do some other things. Let's try to get them off their spots.
Talk about their moms, do anything, but we just, that's what it was. It's like once they just started steamrolling, but they came in on steamroll mode, and the Chiefs didn't have any answers.
No, they did not.
I think. Like, it's these kind of things are the kind of things that kind of can impact Andy's legacy, and then even Mahomes. Like, because I never saw, like, I seen Joe Montana get destroyed before against the Giants, where they was just killing him, but I never seen him just like, I don't know, I don't have any idea what I can do or what to do. And Mahomes is like, to me, I don't know how much control he has, but at the line, you keep calling these pass plays, man, we about to run the ball. I'm audible into some, or I'm audible into some stuff that gets me outside of the pocket. Move the pocket, do something. Do something.
You got to do something, but other than what this front four is comfortable in doing, which is rushing and collapsing the pocket so that there's less room to maneuver. And he's getting sacked, but his guys aren't open. He's got to make rush decisions. Like, it's just I'm
not even seeing enough holding calls Because ain't no way you're just gonna keep teeing off on my quarterback before I start cheating.
Well, yeah, like there's no like. I mean, honestly, they couldn't stay in front of them to get the holding call. Like
tripping.
some,
There's all
yeah,
kinds of ways.
you'd have to be chop blocking from behind or like something. Like
Put a
they
12th
were
player on the
rushing right
field.
by him.
Yeah, I was like, bro, this tape ain't good for none of y'all. None of y'all.
Yeah, I mean the offensive line by far looked the worst out of everybody for Kansas City.
Yeah,
And
but
like
I mean,
I don't know how much it would hurt Patrick's legacy because look, we've seen Patrick lose Super Bowls before, and every time, for the most part, we look at it and we say, you know, there was not really much he could do. Like,
yeah, but like,
but this one, it felt like there was more he could have done, especially because he's, you know, he's more of a veteran now. Like he's not in his first few years anymore. So you would think that some of that veteran wisdom, some of that experience, you know, would lead him to override some of the coaching, you know, decisions like you mentioned earlier, like
right.
audibly. Like quarterbacks and point guards and pitchers have the most power in any sports because they can get an order from their manager, coach, whatever, and if they see something that's different, usually there's that trust where they can override it and make a change the call on the field. And if you're out there and you see that this isn't working, and your coach seems to be adamant about doing this over and over again, you've got to grab, you know, the game by the balls and say, look, I've got to make a change here. We've got to do something different because it's not working. Maybe we can go back to it if we can get them to back off here, but it's not working now. We got to do something else.
I think about like Elway when the 49ers and the Reds, whatever they're called, the Commanders now,
yes,
when they beat the brakes off of him, and those were terrible looking. But Elway still did okay in those games. He didn't look, you know.
Elway was the Broncos.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like when they were getting murdered, you know, he was still doing something. You know, like he didn't look helpless. And there's 2 times now in the Super Bowl where Pat looked helpless. And so, like, while I do think a lot of that goes with the play calling, but it's got to be something else. You got to be able to see something, like get out of that. Like, stop trying to run your normal plays. That's not working. Throw some bubble screens, like something. Did they throw any screens? Like,
I don't remember. I don't remember seeing any. But even with the screen takes time to develop. He had no time. Like,
I mean,
there was no time for even a screen to develop.
Float, you gotta do something, man.
But if your guys aren't blocking, it's like what, you know. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist to a certain extent, but I was like, man, these guys, this O line looks like Swiss cheese. Like you can drive a truck through through these guys.
Yeah.
It's like oh man, I saw some video. I don't know what it's a video of, but this is it was like the security that was standing with their arms out, but they weren't like doing anything, and people were just going by them. Like that's how that offensive line looked. Like just a bunch of people just standing there with their arms out and not making any effort. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I am in my 40s and massively out of shape. I could have rushed Patty Mahomes that as slow as it would take me to get with my weight to get out of my 3-point stance. I still would have been able to rush the quarterback the way they were blocking. Like you could. It was like, well, did they think they were playing the Pro Bowl? Did they think we were playing an exhibition? Did they think Spice Adams was lining up against them and Spice was just out there having fun? Like, come on, man. No.
Yeah. And it's the second time, man. That's what, like, if it was the first time, it'd be different, but it's the second time.
And the excuses from the first time you don't work here. Because this line isn't new. This line isn't inexperienced. It's not full of rookies. Like you can't.
It's the same line you won all them games with, like,
and you won Super Bowls with. Like this is not. This is not an inexperienced group here.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are less experienced, but it still doesn't fly. Like, I can't accept that.
No, absolutely not. There's no room for it. That to get that type of shellacking, there's no, yeah, you can't get beat down that way.
You had 2 weeks to prepare. Like,
Yes, you had all this extra time to be ready for this.
and I'm like, I can't.
I don't know if they were partying with Taylor Swift. I don't know if they were just thought
I
that,
don't know if
you know,
somebody got
they
their
were going to hand it to
playbook
him.
or
Yeah,
if Bill Belichick might have, but you can't even say that because it was like they weren't even blitzed. Like
yeah.
when the Patriots played the Eagles in that Super Bowl and they were picking up every single blitz, like that looked suspicious. But this one you can't even say because they weren't blitzing. It wasn't like they were guessing the plays. They were just, we're gonna heat them up every time, and that's what happened.
What happened was ugly. So we're not going to make you dwell more on that.
Good, man.
We're gonna
Pull out the liquor.
no hand needed for this. Don't need to ease the pain. Um, it's been slow, sports wise, but we generally don't react to news here because we like to talk about analysis, philosophy, and things of that nature on how you play the games that we talk about. So we're going to talk about differences in how the game is played, differences of eras. So one highly talked about and debated topic in the game of basketball, especially nowadays, where so many people have podcasts, and on these podcasts, they like to disrespect players of the past. They like to refer to them as plumbers and janitors and dentists and all these other things to disparage the talent level of said players, regardless of the era. And it was one thing when people made these comments, and those players who were excellent players had to actually have those everyday jobs to provide for their families. But when you start calling players from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s plumbers and janitors and garbage men, um, it's just insulting and disrespectful. So I have a list here of 5 players who are underrated, players who I believe would excel given the change in philosophy in today's NBA. High volume threes, layups, and no defense. Um, and I think these particular players who were good in their time, but not really, they weren't the upper echelon. A couple, maybe an all-star here or there, but they were, as they say, ahead of their time when you look at how the game is currently being played. What I want here is Greg to give me, not only if he agrees with me that these players would be good, but I would like his projection, if they played today, where their level would be. Would they be a star? Would they be like an all-star player? Would they be an upper echelon player? Would they have a 4 or 5 all-star appearance career? Would they just be a bench player? Would they just be a solid starter? I want to get your projection if you inserted them from their time into now, given how the game is played, where they would be. So
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we are going to start. Oh man, we're going to start with a guy I know you're familiar with. Played for the Dallas Mavericks in the 80s. If you are listening to the show and you do not know this player, I really encourage you to look him up. A player that I really liked, and I don't know why the Knicks didn't play him more when they were trying to win the title in '94. But this is the one and only Rolando Blackman.
Oh,
Rolando Blackman. Oh man, I was, like I said, a favorite of mine. Um, if you are not familiar with Rolando, quick background: Panamanian-born player, averaged. Oh man, I'm not trying to remember. Hold on, let me look here. Yeah, career averages of 18, 3 and 3. So, GB, if you put Rolando Blackman in today's NBA,
Today's
what
NBA.
would he be?
So the thing is, like, he wasn't like, his handle wasn't crazy. But I think that everybody's handle from back then would be a lot better now, because number one, there's no hand checking, so you get to square up, and also, there were really serious rules. Like, if you was a ball handler, you was a ball handler, and everybody
Right.
else, that wasn't your job.
Yes,
So,
like don't dribble because your job is not to dribble.
so I could see him. I don't think I don't know if he would necessarily. I know he would be solid in today's game. I don't know if he would be an all-star. One of my things with him, and this might sound like an ogre, but I always felt like he wasn't selfish enough. Like, he was a team guy. He could score. We know he could score, but he wasn't like bloodthirsty. And so for his ability, if he was a little bit more selfish, I think he could be, like a star. But we see so many of these guys today that have star potential, but they're coming in with that AAU mindset, which is share, share, share. So that's why I say I don't think he would be necessarily an all-star.
Okay, that's interesting. Um, I would disagree with you only because of the volume of today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a 4-time All-Star in his day,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, at his peak, he averaged
It had to be like 25 or something, right?
peak. He averaged 22 and a half.
That's it.
22 and a half was his peak. Well, remember, here's the thing:
Mark Aguirre,
Mark
Derek
Aguirre,
Harper,
he's sharing the ball with Mark
Lee.
Aguirre. Yeah,
Yeah.
so Derek Harper's running the point. You're sharing the ball with Mark Aguirre, who is not known for passing. Getting
Rightfully so.
rightfully so.
That man used to
You're
get.
you're getting that 22 alongside a very and you've got not Aguirre, you've got a young Deadlift Trumps there, Tarpley, you've got Donaldson, you've got players who can play and can put points on the board. So
Mm-hmm.
that's impressive to be playing alongside those guys. But also, you have a guy who's career 49% from the field shooting. A
Yeah.
guy career 34% from three. And
Which I would actually tack on maybe 3 to 4 more points based off the fact that now you get to shoot them. You get to shoot as many as you want.
right.
And for a shooter like him, the more attempts, I feel like he would make more.
And then here's the key to that's my point. So like anybody that glances at his numbers in basketball reference will be like, well, 1 year he shot, 0.091 that's terrible. Yeah, and he also only attempted 0.1
Right.
threes per game. Now,
Yeah.
when he did attempt more, like in 88, 89, he attempted 1.1 threes per game and he shot 35%. And in 91, 92, he shot 2.3 per game and he averaged 38.5%. The year before that, 35%. The year after that with the Knicks, he averaged 1.2, shot 42%.
Mm-hmm.
Last year with the Knicks, shot 35%. So if this man's shooting more threes, he's shooting at a I'll call it a Curry clip. Shooting
Yeah.
at a Curry clip.
Yeah. But
If he's shooting today, if he's shooting at a Curry clip with today's, he's averaging 26, maybe 27, shooting
see,
more.
I get you, but I'm looking at like our shooting guards that like go to the All-Star game today. You got Ant, you got Devin Booker. Are there any in the West? I guess. Are they calling Jason Tatum a shooting guard? Because he's
No,
just a play.
he's listed as a small forward. Jalen
Okay.
Brown is listed as a
Jalen
shooting.
is the shooting. Okay. So
Even though they're pretty much the same,
yeah,
they play the same. in a lot of ways.
So I mean, it's like I don't see him eclipsing those kind of players. Like I said, I think he would be good. Maybe he squeaks in an all-star game, depending on like the team that he plays on. But like if he was, because I don't think he's as athletic as those guys that I just named, but he was still like I don't know. I guess because I had to watch a lot of Dallas games living in Louisiana, and he used to just make like I used to be like, man, go eat, dog. Like just eat.
See, the thing is, like, as much as I like D Book, man, I think he'll be better than Booker. And I don't think his athleticism is that much worse or pretty much the same as Booker's. I mean, we can't have like Devin be flying through the paint and yamming on people. Like that's not his game.
No.
That's not his body type. You know, I really think athleticism, they're pretty much on par.
But Devin is thirsty to get buckets. You know what I mean?
Devin has a different mentality.
Yeah. But I mean, I could see it. Like, let's say I could see him squeaking into some all-star games, depending on like teams that he played on. But again, I think he would definitely be a good player in this era. Like, brush up on that handle, and I think he'd be solid.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next player on this list.
That was a good one.
Thank you. I do my best. The next one is another favorite of mine. I think a very underrated player. Talks a lot of trash. They call him the Rifleman.
Woof.
Mr. Chuck Person. For those who don't know Chuck Person was a power forward. And the Rifleman came because he's a shooter. Career average 14.7, 5 boards a game, just shy of 3 dimes a game. 45% field goal percentage for his career, and was the 86-87 Rookie of the Year.
And like also about Chuck, so played power forward, but you would say he was an undersized power forward. He really did his work on the perimeter. And for people that don't know, before he left Indiana, he was number 1, and Reggie was like creeping up as the number 2. Like Chuck was the guy. He could get buckets. If you take his frame, and then he wasn't even afraid to go down there and bang a little bit. But if you let him shoot 8 threes a game, what are we doing? Yeah, Chuck would be a monster. Now, I don't know how well he would defend in this era because what was Chuck, like 6'7"?
6'8".
Yeah. So Chuck, like being that now you got, all these wings are 6'9", 6'10", like, I don't know, because he really didn't get off the floor very often. So
no, you know what? But neither does PJ Tucker.
Right.
Draymond Green,
Yeah, so PJ Tucker, as far as athleticism and stuff, that's a beautiful comparison. But Chuck had offense,
yes,
and where PJ was mostly defense. So yeah, I think Chuck could be a star in the right circumstance. But again, it's like so much of it now. One of the frustrating parts, like I watched last night, I wanted to watch KD get his 30,000th point. It's so frustrating watching the Suns play because they can literally go down the court like 5 times without KD touching the ball. 10 times straight without the ball touching the paint. It's like, it's a very disgusting way to play basketball. So, and everybody's touching it. Everybody's throwing up. I've seen more air ball threes this year than I can probably remember, like, ever. It's like you're seeing 4 or 5 a game. Because
teams are shooting 30 to 50 a game.
Yeah. And they're not sitting there. All the stuff we was taught, set your feet.
Set your feet, feet square to the basket, set your feet, get your feet under you, elevate. Yeah, none of that's happening.
Yeah, so I think that would have to come into play. Like if Chuck was at a team where they realized he's a real shooter and not just a dude that shoots. And like they give him the opportunities, I think he could put up like 25 a game in this era. And he could still work you, use that body to work you a little bit down low. So yeah, maybe some. I mean, we got dudes scoring 30 and not getting in the All-Star game, so it's hard to say, but I think that he would be a really good player in this era. And
I'm going to concur with you. I think Chuck. So sometimes there are players, in my opinion, that were good for their era will be better than this era, and I think that there are some players who would just be better, more suited for their era. Chuck is one of those people that I think if he came to this era, he is immediately a better player because of his girth. He would be able to go inside. There's a lot of guys now who just can't jump. I mentioned Draymond. Jokic can't jump over a pencil. Luka can't jump over a pencil, and we know how we've gone already ad nauseum about his lack of defense. So Chuck's defense, better than more effort than Luka's. He'd survive, and the scoring that he'd be able to provide would likely get him one of these passes because of how effective he was as a shooter.
He was a shooter, and you back then. For any whippersnappers listening to this, you weren't like if you shot like a couple of threes and missed them, you probably weren't going to shoot anymore. Because
you weren't going to be on the court. You were going to be benched until you stopped jacking up shots they didn't want you to take it.
Yeah. So it's like the fact that now you're allowed to like shoot yourself in the rhythm. The other night, Steph shot 23s, I think, against the Lakers. I think it was 20. You know what I'm saying? You're allowed to do stuff like that now.
Could never have done that back then. Never.
Right. You miss a couple, man. Hey, man, stop shooting that. Get into the paint.
Get into the paint.
Get to the line.
Or how about you take a jump shot from the free throw line? Get to the elbow. Get yourself into the rhythm. Then move outside if you're feeling it. This being able to jack up as many threes as you want to it doesn't make sense to me. But if you let someone like Chuck jack up those threes, we're talking about a man with a career 36.2% three-point percentage. A man whose career high percentage from three is 41%. His 95-96 season, where he attempted 5.8, which was very high for that time.
Very high.
5.8 threes per game, shooting them at a 41% clip. This man's on your squad right now, and his prime. Yeah, he's getting you buckets.
And those weren't open shots.
A lot of those were contested shots.
Yeah, like now, like how many times do you see Steph Curry, the best shooter we've ever seen, wide open for a 3-point attempt? We see it a lot. So. Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
the rifleman.
The rifleman I think would be better now than he was then. All right, next player. Somebody who I believe should be in the Hall of Fame. Somebody I really loved watching as a player. And happens to be the first ever unrestricted free agent. The one and only Tom Chambers. For those who don't know Tom Chambers, career averages 18 points a game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Career field goal percentage 46.8.
So are we doing Seattle Tom or Phoenix Tom?
It doesn't matter because both Toms are freaking good.
Yeah, I feel like Phoenix Tom, he kind of took a back seat.
No, that's not.
When Barkley got there,
yeah, he took a back seat when Barkley got there. But when he first got to Phoenix, he got MVP votes. Yeah, he was averaging 25 a game.
I just like when he was like locked in. Remember, dude.
I'm talking Phoenix. A double knee to Mark Jackson chest. Phoenix Tom.
Yeah. I agree, man. I remember when they was trying to say he might be the best, Caucasian player in the league when Larry Bird was there. Like he was special. He was at like his athleticism.
So much more athletic than Bird. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would work really well, but he could shoot it. He scored 3 levels. Yeah. He like if Luka and Joker are dominating the league,
That's what I'm saying.
Tom
Tom
will be a
Chambers,
superstar.
yes, he would
Tom will
be
be
a
a superstar.
superstar. He would be
And what was
murdering
his
everybody.
and what was his real weakness? Like moving his feet on the perimeter, like stuff like that, which you don't have to do anymore.
Right.
So, yeah. Now Tom will be a monster.
Straight monster.
Ooh, yeah, that would be nasty. And when you say Hall of Fame, like, why isn't he in the Hall of Fame?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about twice All NBA, 4-time All-Star, All-Star MVP. I mean, he's got the numbers, he's got accolades, and people were calling Clay. Clay had less accolades than this, and they were calling him a future Hall of Famer. Dre had less accolades than this, and they were calling him a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the guy should be in the Hall as far as I'm concerned.
Maybe we need to put in a couple of calls using all this clout that we have.
Yeah, and if this guy, I mean, and yeah, people like talk about when Barkley got there, that '93 season. Yeah, he took a back seat. He still averaged 12 a game, and he got votes for 6th man of the year.
I honestly think that if they would have started both of them, like I know you're gonna lose a little bit of perimeter defense, but like those are 2 matchup nightmares almost. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they had multiples because you had KJ, which nobody could guard for Chicago.
Nobody.
And you had Chuck, and then Tom. Now the problem was Oliver Miller was playing out of his mind that year.
Yeah, he did. He was very solid.
That was the thing. Like he was playing so well inside that and Tom was his legs weren't what they used to be. So having him as a super sub off the bench was really dangerous. It made sense why Paul Westphal did that.
Right.
Went with that strategy. I can't knock the strategy from Coach Westphal, but yeah, I mean, matchup nightmare if Tom's on the floor with KJ and Marley. You have to guard Marley because he's shooting it from deep. So you have to
remember Barkley was like increasing his range at that time.
Yeah, Barkley was shooting it.
You could play. He was catching the ball at the top of the key and working out.
Well, that was the year he hit the one big 3 against San Antonio.
Utah. Oh, San Antonio, yeah.
Yeah. To win in the playoffs to keep them going forward. Like, yeah, you couldn't let Barkley just stand out there. He was shooting it. You had Richard Dumas. Like you had some really, really talented people on that squad.
Were loaded.
All right. This next player does not have the accolades, but eye test, I believe this player has the goods to be much better than he was in his era because of how he played. This is I mean, he's a guard. I would consider he would be a combo guard today. Averaged 12, let's say 13 points, 12.8, 13 points a game, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 50% shooting from the field. At the time, the most popular player from Lithuania, Sarunas Maršalonis.
Ooh, I loved him. He was my favorite European player, I think, for a long time. The only problem I had with him is he's another guy that was like not selfish. He went out and he tried to do what was best for the team all the time. And the reason why I say that as a problem is because his numbers probably could have been a lot better. He was kind of Ginobili before
Absolutely.
Ginobili
100%
happened. a good defender. I like in his instinct, like the intangible stuff. The only reason I say he probably wouldn't have been a star today is because of the mind state, which was more oriented in doing what's necessary to try to win. But I think he would be like a really good player. Like he could be the kind of guy that could lead a team.
I'm gonna disagree with you, and I'll explain why. Sarunas Marciulionis comes from the era where a European era that's more like today's NBA era. He comes from the finesse European era, where they weren't playing. They're playing '90s ball in Europe now, but they were playing like they play today in Europe at this time. That's what he came from. And coming into today's game, he would have that freedom that he had in Europe to put up those type of numbers he put up in Europe. So I think he would have had more confidence because he didn't have to conform his game to the American style game. This game is already suited for how he plays. That coupled with the fact that he's a 6'5" guard, had really won't want him running the point, but he did have good enough handle that if you needed him to do so, he could. Again, a la Ginobili, had the athleticism to compete at the rim, and he could just flat out shoot. We're talking about a guy with a career 3-point percentage of 37%. Highest years is Seattle and Sacramento, 94, 95, 95, 96. We're talking about 40% from three, both of those seasons.
And shooting wasn't even like the
no, it really wasn't. I mean, he was known
like
he's the one that they for some reason co-opted the Baylor step. The Baylor side step. Now that they've renamed Euro step, I refuse to call it that. It's the Baylor step, but they repackaged it and they give credit to Sarunas because, granted, we really hadn't seen many people using it since Elgin Baylor, and so he kind of helped bring it back into popular use. And we hadn't seen a European doing that. Like we were like, oh, okay, he's nice with it.
And he was doing like he threw a little. I don't know if they use spices over there, but he because remember he used to hit you with that like behind the back Euro. Like
he was filthy with it.
He was really crafty with it. Yeah. So he used to be able to attack the paint. But I just watched. I'm telling you, man, I don't know what it was, but before plus minus was a thing, I could see the guys where you put them on the court and their team is better with them on the court than when they're not. And he was one of those guys. Like his intangibles, impacting the game, making the right play, always being where he was supposed to be. Yeah, I think he could be on the cusp of stardom. I just it's just mentality again. And it's not a bad thing for anybody who's out there listening. It's not a bad thing to be selfish, but I mean, to be unselfish. But I think to be a star, most of the time, you got to be playing the game within the game, which is you got to fulfill the box
right on
scores.
That. Why? But again, why I disagree is because Marciulionis was a very coachable player, and in today's game, his coach would tell him, go after it. His coaches in Golden State and with Seattle and Sacramento were not telling him to go after it. A coach today is going to tell him with his skill set and his ability, go get it. And he would then, I believe, reciprocate. He would shoot more. He would be more aggressive than what we saw, because again, he was conforming to the American style of play. Late '80s, early '90s. We're talking, peak bully ball.
Bully.
Throw the ball in the paint. He's not. The perimeter is not the first option outside of Michael Jordan. Really, no one on the perimeter is the first option. Everything is going inside out. It's still an inside out game. Right. So right now, being that we play an outside in game, and coaches are giving these insane green lights to players like Jordan Poole. If Jordan Poole is getting a green light like that, Sarunas is getting a green light like that. You know what I'm saying? And he would go out there and get it. So I don't stardom. I think he'd be at the cusp. Um, I think he would be one of those. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? He gets one or two in his career. And kind of like with Trey Young. I think Trey's All-Star bids have all been because somebody bowed out or somebody was hurt. Um, just on that cusp, I think that's where he would
Mm-hmm.
be. I think he would be higher regarded playing in today's era than he was in his. But he would just be on that cusp
Right.
of stardom and very, very good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like somebody that I
From
could
today.
compare him to, and I can't.
His play
Yeah,
style, or
I'm trying. I mean, so yeah, I don't like. There's not a lot of people. He was nice with the ball, and I'm not just talking about like the Baylor
yes,
stuff. I'm talking about like decision making, uh, getting the ball where it's supposed to go. So you don't really see there ain't
not
too
not
many
as
guys
not,
that's
not
like
like we
that. Man.
should. No. Um,
He'd be like a lesser athletic
what
De'Aaron
he be
Fox or
like? That's a
somebody.
good
I don't know.
question. Hmm.
I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
Goran
Goran,
Dragic.
yes, Goran's game
Um,
very similar,
I but I
and they're both
but I feel
southpaws,
like
if I'm not mistaken.
uh yeah. I just feel
Oh
like
yeah, definitely
Sarunas
stronger.
was like
Yeah,
stronger. Man, he was also cut up. Like, that dude was like action
yeah.
figure
He was
walking in
like
the
a
NBA. Like
European GI Joe.
uh,
Like my man,
so
he had tone to him. He had some muscle
right,
on him.
right.
He wasn't.
But yeah, he would be solid. And again, it would be, one of those things like where you're playing. Like if you're playing with like somebody like LeBron or Luca, no. But if you're playing in an open
Or you're
style or with
playing. I
somebody like
mean,
KD,
let's say this
yeah,
franchise. If he's playing for Steve Kerr, yeah, he's getting it. He's
yeah, yeah,
getting it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going. He's going. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely
All right.
going on a
Last
squad like
player.
that.
Oh man, personal. I mean, probably my favorite player on this list. I think this man, and I may be overestimating it, but I think this man would be an absolute terror in today's game. Um, he, at his time, cusp of that All Star. Not many. Only one All Star nod. Um, but somebody who was very good for his era. I just think would be just an absolute terror today. Um, the man known as one of his names, but to me mostly known as the Silent Assassin. Number three, Dale Ellis. For those who don't know
Mm.
Dale Ellis, also
Uh,
played with those Dallas Mavericks with Ronaldo Blackman. Career averages of 15.7 points per game, 3 boards, 1.5 assists on a career 47.9% shooting.
yeah, and I can say one of the first guys that was looked at as like a straight up 3-point weapon. Like we had Larry Bird, but Bird wasn't like just trying to shoot threes. Like Dale Ellis came in like firing. I can't. I don't have
I
the
do.
stats in front of me, but I know his threes per game was. Yeah, what was his 3 pointers
So
per game
prime
like
Dale
at his
Ellis,
peak?
which would have been Seattle Dale Ellis, where he had most improved player, 86, 87, dropped 25 per game, shooting the three at a 35.8% clip. The following year, 41.3%. All-Star year, 88, 89, shot 4 attempts per game, shooting a blistering 47.8% from three.
That's so four threes per game is like
Today.
probably 12 to
Yeah.
13 now. As far as like you to be like, okay, he's shooting a lot of threes, and he was like a weapon. I don't like. I think something happened. I can't remember, but he was on his way to being, like in that superstar category.
Yes.
I think, and he was thirsty. And you notice it's not that I like the thirsty players better. I just know that he would be getting buckets like crazy because he wasn't just he was a shooter. You know what I'm saying?
Everything, pull up,
Mid
everything,
range,
just a shooter.
pull up. He was So before, because I think Del Curry was the next one that was oh, it's another one, but Dell wasn't athletic like Dale. There's Dale. Dale was a monster, man. I think he could be getting you 28, 30 a game in today's game because he's gonna put it up, and he's not gonna think twice. Not a lot of conscience there, so I think and again, these guys are shooting threes at a time where you might be getting a little bit of daylight every once in a while. But now, for him to just be in this era
and
where
you're getting wide
they're
open
just
looks.
spraying the ball over.
When he's hitting threes, there is somebody draped on him.
Yeah.
Nowadays, with the spacing,
and also the stigmatism that comes with it. It's one of the hardest things about talking to people about the eras is that stigmatism. For you to be shooting 4 threes a game at that time, that takes balls. Dude, my freshman year in high school was that 87, I think. Our coach was like, no threes. We're not shooting any threes. That, you know what I'm saying? It was threes was looked at as a weak way to play the game.
Still a gimmick.
It was looked at as a cop
I
out.
think your freshman year was
most of the time.
First year the 3-point ball was added into high school ball.
Right. And so it was and my best friend, he shot one when we needed it because we were down by 2 in the clock. Clock was about to go out, and he shot at halftime and hit it. And that was the first time. And I think we only took 2 threes that whole season. So it's hard to get people to understand, because now it's just so freely being done. You wasn't even shooting threes in pickup ball. Unless you could really shoot it, and OG would beat you up.
If you shot that shot
some jump,
and you wasn't making it, you wasn't getting picked, and your team lost, you wasn't getting picked up for next run.
Right.
No one, they didn't want you on the court. You wasn't getting picked up.
Right. So all that to say that in that era, Dale Ellis was shooting. And what we know, I know this from coaching. I understand the philosophy of the game. What Steve Kerr did in Golden State was he said, hey, fire them up. If you're open, take the shot. And when you tell players that, and they're able to relax, and now it's all over the league. If you're open, take the shot. So you take somebody who's mentally tough enough to be like, man, I don't care what y'all say. I'm hoisting these bad boys up. And then you put him in this game where you're allowed to hoist them bad boys up. It'd be crazy. I'm not saying, I'm saying his 3-point numbers would be up towards the top of everything. Talking about all-time numbers, all of that.
They still are.
Which I think they still were pretty high.
From now, he's one of the few that has a career, above 40% percentage from 3. He's still one of the marksmen, and he was shooting at the clip that they shoot them at now.
Yeah.
That's so many more points that if he doubles that, we're talking about from 4 to 8, we're talking another 12 more points added on to what he's scoring. So I mean, if you add an extra 12, actually, let's add. If you just add 4 more, if you swap out 4 twos for 4 threes, we're talking about now 28.9, 29.8, or 31.5.
And he was a solid
excellent free throw shooter. I mean, career free throw percentage of 80% from the free throw line.
Yeah. So, and like I said, he had a scorer's mentality. He wasn't just shooting. He would be a problem. He would be
Big
a
problem.
problem. And he was athletic. He was very athletic. I don't remember him being a tough
solid
defender,
defender,
but I know he was good enough to stay on the court, because back then, and you had to be a super duper star to be a bad defender and stay.
And and even if you weren't that good, you had to give an effort. But no, he was a solid defender. So
yeah.
Dale Ellis, would have been. He'd have been so lethal, absolutely lethal today. I'm with you on most of those. Yeah, that's that's this list. Listeners, we would like to know what you think of this list, and if you disagree with us, tell us why. We'd be interested in hearing to know why, because we respect other people's philosophies and thought processes on how the game is played and how the game could or should be played. But we would love to know what you think about these five. Again, that list is Ronaldo Blackman, Chuck Person, Tom Chambers, Sarunas Marciulionis, and Dale Ellis.
And that's an excellent list, man. And I'm going to tell you why. Because everybody talks about like the superstars of each era. And it's like there's so many good. I think that's part of why me and you started talking about doing this. There's so many great players that have played the game that nobody talks about anymore. And so that was an excellent list. I had to dig deep.
I'm gonna test your memory now.
I think Dale Ellis.
I'm gonna test it.
Okay, no, I remember them.
That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna make you dig. I'm gonna make your mind churn on some of these guys. Because one, like you said, these unheralded players from their eras who were great players who should be honored, not disrespected. They should be looked at as how good they were for their time. And when you compare the eras, you can talk about someone's legitimate deficiencies, but what we're not going to do is we're not going to disrespect them for who and what they were. We'll call out, hey, this person didn't play defense, and this person didn't try this, but we're not going to say, oh, we're not going to call them bums. We're not going to call them janitors. We're not going to call them plumbers. That's something that we're not going to do, because those players worked and honed their craft like every other player who's had the opportunity to make it and play at the highest level possible.
Yeah, I think we both played, competitive basketball for long enough in our lives. Like I started playing competitive like in the late 80s, all the way through the 90s, all the way to 2000s. Dropped my last 40 piece on somebody in like 2015, I think, before I had to retire due to some injuries. And like I could say, like I played against dudes that was in the NBA. I've never played against an NBA player or a guy that even played at a time in the NBA and came out of it thinking, oh, this man is garbage. Like athletically, what I'm saying, they were like superior to 90-something% of the humans on the planet. And skill wise, like guys that you would say were bums, like you match up on them like dudes that barely got to play, and they'll wash you. I probably got the best of two guys that played in the NBA, and neither one of them was a star. But I know they was really going. We were really going at it, and I was, I got the best of them. But other than that, lunch meat.
Yeah, no.
Like even when you're doing good, you're doing bad.
I don't tell many people this story, but when I was at Coach Wooten's camp, at DeMatha, Danny Ferry was a guest speaker that one of those weeks, and Danny Ferry decided to put to pick out random kids and play a game of knockout. I was fortunate enough to play knockout with Danny Ferry, and then I beat Danny Ferry in knockout. I thought, I was like, oh, my Jay is like, I've been shooting the ball great all week. I was like, oh, my Jay is fire. I just beat Danny Ferry, and plus I hate Duke, so I beat it. I beat it as this Duke player. He played for the Cavs. I hate Cleveland. I'm a Pistons fan. Like, I am riding high. And Danny Ferry just sees me. I'm dapping everybody up. I'm like, Danny Ferry looks at me. He's like, let's run it back. He ain't missed a shot. He didn't miss a single thing. He grabbed like 6 more of us. He ain't missed a shot. The game was over in like 30 seconds. Like, he was like, oh, okay. I'm warm now. Let me really show you what I can do.
Yeah. That's what did I tell you about
yes, you did tell me your Larry Robinson story. Yeah.
So
he started pulling up from half court on you.
Yeah. I thought I was feeling good, man. I was like, yeah, I'm grown. I'm a big boy now. I'm a big boy. And then he started bombing. And then I started realizing, oh, he's not really playing hard.
I should have known better. I was 14 years old. I should have known better. I had no chance of.
But because you like they're right there in front of you, so you hear where I am. Let's get
it. And I just had been successful. Like, I just won. I was just on fire. All of a sudden, my fire was blown out. I don't know what. I know there was an extinguisher because I was just like, oh, it ain't going in like it was. I mean, I hit 2 shots at second round, but after that, he just. I was just like, oh, everybody else was getting knocked out. I was like, oh, I better not miss. Made the first one, came back. He made the next one. Next kid missed. I knock him out. Next kid, Danny knocks him out. I make it. Danny shoots. I go and I see the ball. Boom, boom, and I'm like, no. And I just look up. Oh.
Yeah, man. I'm talking about dudes who you think couldn't like you seen them in games and they couldn't shoot and they come in, to your gym and like can't miss. Like it's a really, really different level. And every step of the way, like those guys were like the best. That's why it's so difficult to like compare eras. Like this dude was saying Magic didn't have a left. And I'm like, you think that he wouldn't have worked on his left? Like everybody does? Back then, it wasn't part of the ritual to work on both hands like when you're 4. Now it is. So you think he wouldn't have been able to adapt that?
Magic didn't have a left or Mike didn't have left. I'm like, what are you watching that tells you that? Like, he prefers to go right. Most people prefer to go towards their dominant hand. Like that doesn't mean they don't have a left. That means they can go to their dominant hand and no one can stop them. Like that doesn't say they don't have a left. Like
I'm telling you what it is, man. Like they watch him dribble and how you used to have to use your body as a shield because you weren't allowed to stay like square in front of somebody because they're gonna put one hand on your body and they're gonna take the ball from you. So it's like now, they see all these guys that are coming down. Like I'm watching like Tyler Hero and Austin Reeves and some of these guys that aren't super athletic, but they're allowed to play with the ball. You weren't allowed to play with the ball.
If they're putting the arm on you, and I've got depending, like if you're coming up, I would probably depending on if the person was left or right, but if they were a right-handed ball handler, I'm gonna have one hand. I'm gonna have my pass deflection. I'm gonna have my dig hand because if you're in front of me, that's coming out. You can't.
Right. You can't. The only people that I remember like that was allowed to play with it was like Jeek, like Tim Hardaway, because they were so quick. They had such a low center of gravity, and if you reached, they was gonna be laying the ball up. So like, and even them, you can find a whole lot of footage of people hand checking Isaiah and him having to wanted to.
Oh yeah, I mean, my dad pointed at Mark Jackson and said, "That's how you bring the ball up."
Yeah, that's how we were taught how to bring the ball up, and it's like now because that you're not allowed to contact and use your body to deter people. Now it looks like you can do whatever. You couldn't do that, man. You just couldn't. Like, and the easiest way to see it is look in the playoffs. Watch Steph Curry when Dellavedova was on him. Watch, like most of these guys, if they pick you up full court in the playoffs where they allow a little bit more, what do you see? You see dudes bringing it up that same way. So, yeah, when people say they didn't have a left, like Magic could switch hands, he was throwing. It's harder to throw left-handed, like left-handed passes when you're right-handed.
Oh
it's harder to do that than it is to dribble.
And Magic was zipping them with accuracy.
Throwing with accuracy. Right. That's why, like, it's just like when people talk about LeBron and they're like, "Oh, he can't, he don't have handles." I'm like, he handles the ball very well, though.
He doesn't have a package.
Ball taken from him.
Yeah, like, he ain't got no bag. Like, okay, well, that's because he hasn't had to. He doesn't have to have a bag. Like, not yet. Now that he's 40, and he needs to have a bag so that he can be effective. But
he's got some. He's got some.
Well, no,
stuff, it's not really.
Oh, that's a different argument because to me, at 40-year-old Bron should be trying to do what Mike was doing, and he should be posting and hitting fadeaways instead of trying to, dribble past everybody. Like, you're not blowing by everybody at 40. Like that time is gone. But he needs a different bag. His dribble bag is just not sufficient, at his age. But if people are like, oh, LeBron doesn't have much of a bag, I'm like, well, he didn't need to. He had one, one or two or three patented moves, and you just couldn't stop them. Outside of that crab dribble thing that he gave up on because that was such a, I don't know what that thing was. That was so illegal, but but now there's probably a legal move. It was no.
That's what they did because just like they made that offensive foul legal. Because I'm sorry, like. Dude got probably 10.
The one post stiff arm spin move he has.
No, I'm talking about any of when he'll go one way and get you leaning, and then he starts to go the other way.
Oh, he puts the shoulder.
If you stay with him, he just runs you over, just barrels you over. Yeah, and they usually call a foul on the defense, and he gets an extra free throw for truck stick. But I mean,
you're not wrong about that.
That's a different conversation. Nah, you saw the thing I sent you, man. Dude, I never really put everything together like he did, but it's like the game has been moved to cater to like all his weaknesses. Like he can't play with a guy on the block, so now everything is 5 out. It's weird. Like that, they literally. I remember watching the travel explosion where he started adding another step, and now they got like the gather step.
That's garbage.
Him running people over.
When the man takes, when it's the NBA Finals, and the man takes 6 steps, crossing half court without dribbling, and no one calls it, like. If you listen to the show, I've listened to our original show, the original Jeek podcast. I talked about this with a former guest, former NBA employee, former Slam magazine contributor, Anthony Gilbert, who. And I blatantly, this is the problem because when you do these things and you make these changes, you get LeBron in the NBA Finals clearly taking 6 steps and no one blows a whistle, and it's like what are we doing? Like there was always some times where stars got a call. We saw I remember seeing Dream take 3 steps one time, catch the ball on the break, clearly took 3 steps, yammed it, no one cared. It was a wide open fast break. he was going to dunk it. He was making it anyway, whatever. Like, you got away with stuff here and there. But when it's the NBA Finals, it's a crucial moment, and you're just walking with the ball. There's nothing blocking the ref's view.
Yeah.
They just act like you're dribbling when you're not. Or even when Russ did it against the Warriors, he took like 8 steps, and the refs didn't notice it until until Steph and Draymond are all like, "What do you think? Like, what? How? Like, come on."
But you know what that was? I'm sure he, like, in his brain, he went back to practice, you know, where you like walking up to get ready to work on a play or something. Because I was like, man, what is that? But yeah, it's an interesting game, man.
Like, he was extremely so. For those anybody feeling tight listening to this, thinking that we're just ragging on LeBron, this cat said LeBron wasn't top 100, to which Greg and I were both like, that's insanity.
Yeah.
Okay. Saying he's not even top 100. Craziness. I'm not even going to say this guy was like, he's not top 10. He's not top 100. That's nuts. That's completely disrespectful. That's just as disrespectful as calling anybody a plumber or janitor, whatever. That's that. If you say that about Bron, you clearly are you're hating at that point. You're not looking critically or analytically.
There's nothing.
You're hating by saying that. But the rest of his points were valid about LeBron's game and how things have been tailored to fit his game and the perimeter style game, which I attribute to the Michael Jordan effect. But that's another conversation for another episode.
But the different, because Steve Kerr he's even talked about how that death lineup was so lethal when they would put Kukoc in and have Rodman playing the 5. The difference is between that and that 5-out that Miami started doing is that they still played through the post because they would have Jordan on the block. You know what I'm saying?
It was still a system. So it wasn't a true 5-out. When you're just running a triangle with that particular lineup.
Right. Whereas like LeBron was like, hey, Chris Bosh, I know you're a superstar, power forward, center, whatever you want to call him, and you destroy people on the block, but we're going to have you go stand in the corner. So I can have a clear lane to the goal all the time.
To catch a very late second pass. Yeah.
Right. And just imagine if LeBron, who's 3 inches and 70 pounds bigger than Jordan, imagine if he got a post game playing.
If he played in that,
you couldn't beat with his passing, with his passing ability.
He wouldn't be Stockton numbers, but he'd be in that 12,000 range. He played out of that triangle, because like him, Bosh, and Wade would have murdered it in that triangle because it's constant movement. And then you have the shooters and Battier and Mario Chalmers keeping it honest on the other side. The three of them, Mike Miller, James Jones,
Mike Miller,
Norris Cole off the bench. Like, come on, like they'd have killed it.
Yeah,
killed it running an actual offense, running through a system.
What it like, right? If he just imagine him on the block, like with a post game.
You can't stop it, man.
Like
that's the thing that blows my mind. It's like if you get 3-4 post moves, bro. Like, you scored the most points ever in history accumulated, but you would have all those points and probably one of the top 5 points per game averages if you had developed these other parts of your game. Like,
and probably 3 more championships at least, because what would Dallas
not JJ Barea
put on him if he had a post game? Obviously, and you put Tyson Chandler on him if you want to.
He can bring him outside,
but you can bring him outside.
But if you're smart, if you're Rick Carlisle, you can't put Ty on him because he's going to get in foul trouble because you need Ty to guard the rim to protect the rim.
Right.
Matrix was too slow. to stay in front of him, which is why they put JJ Barea on him, and JJ Barea was quick enough to keep. But that's why, because JJ was quick enough to stay between him and the basket. LeBron was shooting bad jumpers because his jumper was busted at that point.
But Rick, whatchamacallit, Popovich, I think, gave Rick Carlisle. He just said, "Just do what we did, sag off of him." He's more worried about, embarrassing himself, so he's not going to shoot. Can you imagine somebody sagging off of Jordan, Kobe?
Sag off of Jordan.
Like,
that would be the dumbest. Might be like, what? You're giving me this? What? Oh, you know
no, I really can shoot this. Like,
have you seen?
Right. And Kobe will miss 15 in a row to catch his vibe. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but it's like all yet. Like, I wish, I don't know if it would have helped, but if I could have been his confidant, I'd have been like on defense, go lock Dirk up, because I know you can. Don't worry about scoring, because Bosh and Wade were having like a phenomenal scoring series. So don't worry about scoring. It'll come back around. But go ahead and put this heat on Dirk, because Dirk couldn't move him. You know what I'm saying? And he's athletic enough to contest. Dirk was looking like Olajuwon in that series, bro. Like,
and he had the tongue.
Dirk,
the tongue
that
out
one series
got
people. Yeah. That one series got people saying Dirk is like a top 5, power forward. They be saying he's like number 2.
I love Dirk.
Stuff like that.
Come on.
And I'm like, yeah. But that one series, I mean, you gotta admit, man, he looked kind of like Dream, man. He was just like getting whatever he wanted on them, bro. Like Larry Bird and Olajuwon had a baby, and y'all couldn't do nothing to stop it.
No, I mean, he was completely unstoppable. And when Dirk was in the groove, especially even that year, because he was still kind of mobile. He wasn't dunking but he would still get to the rim. He was, and when he was determined to get it, like you can't block his shot. So when he's hot, he's a 6'11" dude who shoots this high arcing jump shot. It's like you can't contest it. You can't get a hand on it. And it's
only thing you could really do is mess with his legs.
Right.
And once he started kicking that, fading,
kicking that right leg out, yeah. But other than that, but the thing is, with that kicking that right leg out, if you mess with it, they're going to call the foul.
Right.
Especially because it's at the top of the key a lot of the time. It's painfully obvious. Like, you can't just you do what you can do, but when he's hot, you just gotta pray he cools down, and and make him uncomfortable. He's got to try to make him uncomfortable.
On the other end, I feel like, real talk, I think what Steven Jackson and them did to him,
we'll go with the
Warriors
team.
Yeah, I think that was.
Oh, that wasn't fair.
Well, but I mean, what did they do? They were smaller. They just fought for every inch. They got up into his space. They pushed him, and I think that made him better.
Oh, definitely.
Had him more prepared for the next time it came around.
I think we've talked before. I mean, that was a team Nelly built. So if anyone was going to take it apart, it was the guy who put that team together. It was going to be him. And he knew exactly what to do to Dirk. And he also knew how to outcoach his successor in Avery Johnson.
Yeah.
So he knew what to do with coaching against Avery. He knew what to do against Dirk. He completely neutralized Josh Howard. It was like, is Josh even playing? Like, it was Josh went from like, this guy's gonna maybe become a perennial all-star to, it was like, y'all seen Josh? I don't know. Like,
yeah, that was tough. I like that dude too.
I liked him too.
I wanted him to be Lakers.
And I still think that I still think that 06 Dallas team was better than the 2011 Dallas team. And I think they got screwed against Miami. Because Devin Harris was at his prime and he was killing. And Josh Howard was at, really emerging then. And Dirk was in his prime, coming off the MVP season. Like that team was nice. I still think they got robbed. That's just me though.
What, all the fouls?
Look, I love Wade. I love Flash. You know, he and I bumped into Flash when I was at 5-star. I tell you this though, all of a sudden every freaking foul call is going his way, and I'm like,
yeah, he got like the Jordan treatment.
yes,
like,
he sure did. He sure did get the Jordan treatment.
What did they go down? Like
they were down 2-0.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were down 2-0, and all of a sudden he's getting every call.
Beep, beep, beep. Which is weird because usually, like what we've always seen, because as much as they talk, Shaq was still the primary target on that team. Like defensively, you were like, we got to stop Shaq, right? And so typically we've seen like the number 2 guy never get the call. Like Scottie Pippen, not only did they not call when he got fouled, but they would try to put 2 quick ones on him, you know?
Yeah.
Kobe, when he was with Shaq, he was constantly picking up 2 quick ones. So it was weird. But yeah, I would have to go back and rewatch it in order to make a claim of robbery. Because in my mind, I've always wanted to say that D-Wade had one of the best finals appearances ever.
I mean, he did his job, but there was a lot of extra whistles that went.
He was shooting didn't he shoot like 26 free throws one game?
Yeah, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. And my prediction that year was for the finals was going to be Dallas and Detroit, and and Miami, beat us in the conference finals that year. But I was just like, those first 2 games, Dallas smoked them. Shaq was injured. Dallas trashed him. Antoine Walker was looking old and not like he shouldn't even have been there. James Posey GP wasn't doing nothing. Posey wasn't doing nothing. Jay Will wasn't doing nothing. And then all of a sudden, every foul's going Wade's way. He's not missing. He's hitting his free throws, and all of a sudden they went 4 straight. And I'm like, this just doesn't sit right.
I gotta rewatch it now with a different pair of glasses because I'm pretty sure I fell in love with Dwayne Wade in the March Madness.
Oh yeah, Marquette.
Here at Marquette, I was like, dude, I had to me he was on so people forget that Glenn Rice had one of the best March Madnesses ever.
It might still be the best. It's up there.
I think
Kemba's up there too.
Walker was
Kemba's
good.
Up there too.
And Melo's was good. But yeah, it's in that
that upper echelon. Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, I separate Wade from those because those guys won it.
Yeah. But the reason I throw Wade in there is because who was he running with? Compared to everybody else.
Yeah, Glenn had Terry Mills. He had Ramil Robinson,
Lloyd Vaught. Yeah. Carmelo.
Yeah, Hakeem Warwick, Jerry McNamara. Yeah.
And then Kemba had Jeremy Lamb.
Yo,
boy.
Yeah, I love Jeremy Lamb, man. I love him, man.
Jeremy shot. I was with his brother the weekend before last. I'm hyper focused on him, but Jeremy shot 60% in that March Madness run, and he didn't miss a floater. He got with Kawhi. I still don't know how Kawhi turned out to be what he was, and to see him. But remember, whatchamacallit had him playing he was like a power forward.
Oh, when Lamb went to OKC?
Fisher. No, I was saying when
he was at UConn?
When UConn played San Diego State.
Okay, that game, yes.
Kawhi was playing the 4, and that was
that's because that was Steve Fisher being Steve Fisher.
Yeah.
I've never respected Steve Fisher's strategy. It just never made sense to me. He was always a great recruiter. I just didn't think his X's and O's where they needed to be because the fact that he couldn't win a national title with the Fab Five to me is still one of the travesties in coaching.
that he couldn't even identify those guys the right way.
Yeah.
Like as good as Chris Webber was, like Juwan Howard should have been touching the ball more. Jalen, like I love Jalen Rose. Can't nobody say anything bad about Jalen Rose. He was one of my favorite college players. His intangibles, his IQ. Sometimes I felt like he had to defer too much to C Webb.
Everybody had to defer too much to C Webb. The fact that Jimmy,
and I love C Webb.
Yeah, no, me too. But the fact that Jimmy and Ray barely got to do anything with the ball was a problem because they weren't able to be as effective.
Both of them boys were cold coming out of high school.
Oh yeah,
they were serious, and so I get it because he had Kawhi playing the 4, and I'm like, I don't see a big deal about this dude. And then you see him a couple of years later.
I can't.
He patting that thing and like, bink, bink, bink. Like, I'm like, whoa.
Well, that's the thing, because unless you saw his draft, his pre-draft workout, you don't know what he can really do, because we didn't get to see it on display at San Diego State because he was playing wildly out of position. Steve Fisher just sends these guys out there, and that's why they lost early in that tournament, because he didn't know what he's doing with these athletes that he has.
Yeah, he should have had that kid bringing the ball down the court, like doing, because his handle is kind of nasty. And
he's got those MJ size mitts. He's got those hands.
Yeah, he should have been touching the ball all the time, especially because I think they got to the Sweet 16. I think that's when UConn beat them.
Why do I feel it might have been the Sweet 16, but it was kind of early on. Everyone was talking about they were going to go deeper, but the way they played, I was just like, I'm not impressed with how they play, and that's just. But it was mostly because Steve Fisher and his coaching is just not. I mean, a Tom Izzo team, Tom Izzo coach of that team, they go farther. So many other, Coach Calhoun coaches that team, they go farther. Lute Olson coaches that team, they go farther. Boeheim coach, and Boeheim's notorious for having teams that falter short. Boeheim coaches that team, they go farther.
That was messed up, man.
Yeah, that was a shame. Steve Fisher had 3 teams that could have. One team definitely should have won it all, and the other one definitely should have played a whole lot deeper than they did. But he mismanaged.
And the one he won, he really just fell into the job.
Well, that wasn't. No one credits him with that, because he fell into it. No one credits him for the Glenn Rice. Nobody does.
But back then, I think that was, a major, when the golly, I wish we could recreate the Fab Five. I wish we could recreate UNLV and the Fab Five, because those were like 2 of the best times in basketball for me. Man, and we was in high school reading the, Streets and Smith, like reading all the books. So we knew who Chris Jackson was before Chris Jackson stepped on the LSU campus. We knew who all these dudes were. So it was like extra special to watch them, to watch like a Larry Johnson come from junior college. You're like, wait, who is this?
Right.
Because remember, Stacey Augmon, he had the highlights.
Yes, he did.
He was in the Sports Illustrated, and then Larry came.
All of a sudden, this JUCO transfer with a gold tooth comes on the scene.
With a gold tooth and a split down
and a gap the size of a railroad. Like,
right. And we like, wait, what?
Who is this cat?
And for my money, in the modern era, he's one of the best college players I ever saw. Like,
oh my God, LJ was dominant, man.
Yeah,
dominant. No, absolutely. LJ was. Oh yeah, that's the dream. That's like one of my dream college games I would love to see. Is, UNLV versus the Fab Five. Like that would have been a matchup. It's made in college heaven. Like,
who you think wins? I think.
Oh man!
Immediately,
the problem. UNLV. See, most people would say UNLV, and the problem is both teams are notorious for underachieving.
Right.
So like you don't like, oh well, this team they underachieve, like oh no, but this team is known for underachieving. I think the talent is on the Michigan side.
Michigan.
Yeah. I think Michigan wins because Jalen Rose is smart, and I think they play. I think because they're young, they're going to have fun in the first half, going up and down against these running rebels. But in the second half, Jalen Rose is like, I've got Juwan Howard and Chris Webber. Their tallest guy is Stacey Augmon, who's like 6'7". I've got a 6'10" guy, a 6'9" and a 6'10" guy here, who cannot be stopped in the post, especially Webb. I'm slowing this game down. I'm giving him the rock, and outside of Greg Anthony, Plastic Man, and and LJ, if any of them get in foul trouble, UNLV they're shot. If they're
remember, you got George Eccles, you got Moses Scurry.
No disrespect.
Not that they were great.
No disrespect to Eccles and Scurry, but
that's 10 more fouls you got.
That's true. However,
and them boys was tough.
No, they were tough.
They
were tough, but here's the problem. Yeah, they're going to play hard defensively, but if you get 5 fouls, you get it quick. If they've got 3 fouls, they've got to sit up. If Stacey Augmon has to sit down, if LJ has to sit down, yeah, Eccles and Skirts, they're going to play tough, but they're not going to score against their counterparts. They're going to have that UNLV team would have some dry spells, and Michigan is going to keep scoring. And if they have some people that got to sub in, people like Rob Pelinka could shoot. They could stretch the floor. They had some good substitutes on that team, where UNLV's bench was not as deep as Michigan's bench was.
I give you that, but I counter with Tark versus Fisher. So
yes,
UNLV.
Well, that's why I said Jalen Rose would make the decision, because I don't trust Steve Fisher's coaching decisions at all.
But UNLV is gonna play that amoeba zone. They're just gonna play frantic on defense. And like you're gonna have to have the discipline to keep dumping the ball down
and see that
to them boys.
And I think Jalen would have that discipline. I think he.
But if I'm Tark, I'm gonna go ahead and put the best defender on the court on Jalen.
Okay.
I'm gonna put Stacey Augmon on Jalen.
Okay.
So Jalen, so now you're talking. They're gonna match up height wise.
Okay.
And Stacey's gonna be able to pressure Jalen. So the one thing that Jalen would need to do in that situation is put his head down and get to the rack.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's going to do that because you got Webber and Howard. I'm going to put my 2 little guys on Jimmy King and Ray Jackson because...
So which one's guarding Ray?
Huh?
Who you putting on Ray? Greg Anthony?
I put Greg Anthony on. And I put Anderson Hunt on Jimmy King.
Greg Anthony's getting destroyed by Ray Jackson.
Right. In a normal world, but this is not what we have. They never spent any time trying to get the ball to Ray Jackson. Like he was, just go stand around, move out, move around.
That is such an obvious mouse in the house. It's like
it's
such
Greg
an obvious mismatch. I mean, I love Greg Anthony, but that's such an obvious mismatch.
He's also got a good name.
So
I'm gonna put Anthony on him. Jimmy King ain't touching the rock. So Anderson Hunt, who is your weak link defensively.
I wouldn't say Jimmy King was not touching the ball, because if Plastic Man is doing
they ain't giving him the ball.
If Plastic Man is doing this thing on defense, Jalen's gonna need Jalen would need some more help bringing the ball, which Jimmy could do. But now that puts Anderson Hunt on an island with Jimmy King at the top of the key, initiating a lot of the offense. And then if you've got Greg Anthony. And one thing,
Jimmy King's gonna be like, "What is this?
No, but
I haven't got to handle the ball since I was in high school."
No, because there were plenty of time. And one thing Jimmy was known to do when he was initiating was he got the ball to Ray. So if Jimmy has to help out with the ball, he was always looking out for his Texas brother. So
right.
So
it's the only way Ray can see the ball.
Right. So
I'm not.
So if Ray Anthony on him, he's eating all.
Greg Anthony gonna get in him.
He's eating Anthony.
Ray's gonna get 2 chances, maybe. I'm not anti-Ray and Jimmy. All I'm saying is, them boys wasn't getting the ball. I was actually it hurt my feelings the first year. I came to terms with it the second year, And then after like Chris Webber left, it's like, oh, they can play better than I thought, but it was too late.
When Chris is gone,
So
a lot of the magic was.
now we go to the other side. Who's guarding LJ?
Who's guarding LJ? Jawan's guarding LJ. Smarter.
Right.
Yeah, Jawan's guarding
C
LJ.
Webb will foul out.
Webb will foul out. Too impetuous.
C Webb will foul.
Yes.
Right. So you put Jawan on Larry. Larry gonna work him out. Stacey Youngman ain't really a scoring threat. Anderson Hunt is your other scorer. Who's gonna guard him? Maybe Jimmy. Jimmy, I would give him a healthy diet of Jimmy and Ray.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets interesting for the Michigan team because it seems like who else was scoring for them? Greg Anthony scored, but he wasn't a scorer.
It was Anderson Hunt and LJ, and
LJ.
And then Stacey and Greg got extras, but it was Anderson Hunt and LJ. That's where your scoring came from, and that bench did not contribute much. It was such a front-loaded team, and Tark was known for having front-loaded teams. Like that was a staple.
So you can't pay like 50 guys. You can only pay.
No, but like a lot of these teams have some of these schools always have deep rosters. North Carolina always has 12 dudes that can just go in.
Man,
Duke
always
they always get all these players. And Tark. I mean, I love Coach Tark. He would coaching at these small schools who don't no one's expecting to get players, and he gets players and he gets some notice. Like, God bless him for that.
Dropping that bread off, man.
Yeah, God bless him for that. But like when you're trying to win a national championship, you got to have some depth. You got to be able to go 8 deep, and he never could field a team that could really go 8 deep. If you look at these really good teams that win, like you look at Coach Nolan Richardson's Razorbacks, they were a deep squad.
40 minutes of
40 minutes. They had like
5 stars coming off the bench.
Yeah, and Scotty, Corliss, Scotty Thurman, Dillard, with that, and Dillard, man, he had that range too. Dillard could
yanking.
Yeah, Dillard yanking.
I bet you if we look at his clips right now, it'll look like regular threes for today.
Yeah, no, he was shooting Steph threes.
He was launching.
I remember my father, God rest his soul. We were watching Arkansas play, and he laughed so hard because Dillard was bringing the ball up and he crossed half court, and the announcer was like, "Oh, Dillard in range," and it was like, well, but he was right because he could just stroke it from anywhere.
He was launching.
He was launching it,
and he wasn't even a starter.
No, he wasn't. So that was a team that was 8 deep. Duke was super deep. Kentucky mashing them super deep, and then the even deeper squad with Twan in them. Walter McCarty, freaking Derek Anderson, Tony
Derek Anderson was guy. I love Derek Anderson.
He's one of we're gonna talk about Derek and when we talk about what ifs. Because Derek is one of the great what ifs. If he doesn't get hurt, what
IQ, man, like he was. I love that dude.
Yeah, but these championship teams generally go 7, 8 deep, and the UNLV running Rebels were just not deep enough.
Right.
I think that was ultimately. Yeah, LJ didn't come to play, and he puts the onus on that. But I think part of it was just they were tired. They were wore out by the time that championship game, and then they played a composed, and they were experienced team.
They were rock stars. Remember, they went over to Europe to play, like the beginning of the new season, and also I think Stacey Augmon took money to throw that game.
I'll let you take that up with the Plastic Man. I'm not going to say that now.
I ain't gonna say it in his face. But yeah, I just, it was just hard. Like he was just, I don't know. But anyways, that's another conversation.
That's a whole conspiracy conversation.
I got my all payoff team, and it might just be me because I'm bitter. But like I feel like sometimes when I watch clips of the '84 finals, I feel like Magic might have owed somebody some money. There was a couple of plays. There's a play, man, where Kareem was trying to like post up Robert Parrish. I'll see if I can find it for you. And Robert was fronting him, and Magic just threw the ball like straight to Robert. Like Robert, like it would have been a great pass if Robert was behind him, but Robert was fronting him. And I'd never understood. Like I remember being a little kid, and I remember crying because Magic Johnson was the closest thing I had to a superhero, and saying, "Mommy, why is he doing that? Why did he throw that?" So, but I don't want to, tarnish my goat's legacy.
Oh, leave,
But
leave. Well, the tragic magic is over. I can't. I look, man. I can't see Irvin doing that, man. Irvin he's one of those competitors. I just can't see him doing that.
yeah,
There's certain players I could hear that and be like, I would like, you know what? I can believe, I can see the possibility.
Like, what about?
But but being my mother being at Michigan State with Irvin, being friends with family members of his who know Irvin intimately, watching Irvin my entire life, I that's not him. Like I can't see him ever throwing.
And neither was the tragedy that happened. I can understand, not being confident in his jump shot. I've been there before, but like some of the turnovers. But it's way better for me because I just feel like he was the perfect basketball player. So I like to. It's not as bad as like a guy getting a migraine in Game 7 and not being able to play, and then doing it again. Like it's not as bad as that. A guy that was grossly underpaid.
I mean that guy wasn't going to beat us that year anyway. Like that.
I mean, it got to Game 7, and they had the greatest show on earth on the team. Never know, he could go nuclear. Anything could happen.
Yeah, but hey,
nothing can happen.
He wasn't. We were determined that this guy wasn't going to beat. That guy wasn't going to beat us.
And play like 30 minutes with a migraine. Have you ever had a migraine?
I mean, if you didn't know what a migraine is, he really expressed and explained what a migraine was at that point.
What did he say?
The details, like it's like you can't see this throbbing, and like he was detailed about what it's like to have a migraine.
He still played 30 minutes.
That's the thing. Like everyone makes this migraine excuse, like it took him out 2 minutes into the game, and they were so hampered. Like, dude, you played most of the game,
right?
I mean, if you want to say Bill, try to take your head off or whatever, okay, then say that, but don't be like, oh, migraine. Like,
I've had mild migraines. I don't think I could play in an NBA game with a mild migraine. And if it's a real migraine,
well, he said it was severe, like his vision was blurred. Well, if your vision's blurred, you shouldn't be on the court because what are you looking at? Like
have you ever before?
No, I'm just about to say, like I've never had a migraine, so I am not speaking from any level of experience. I can just only recant what I've heard people express and explain what migraines are like when they experience them. Scottie Pippen out of his own mouth said his vision was blurry. So to me, if your vision's blurry, why are you on the court?
Because the coach played you because he knew you were lying.
Well, you got to take that's between him and Doug Collins then, because I don't know what's.
I think after listening to some mafioso fellows talk about how it's done, they look for guys that aren't getting paid a lot. They give them money. They do favors for them, and then they call in their favors sometimes.
No, yeah, that is how that works.
But who cares? It's
a bull.
Water under the bridge. I don't. Right.
We're still 3-1 against the Bulls, so that's all. That
true.
It
is true.
We the only ones that can claim that against Mike. Winning record against you in the playoffs, Mike. We the only ones.
The Celtics can't say that?
No. Yeah, that's true. No, they beat the Celtics. I think they beat them one year. Was it like things Reggie Lewis year? They beat them or whatever. So I think they're like 1-1. But obviously that team is a lot different than the Larry Bird team. But nobody was beating that 86 team. That was just nuts. But yeah, it's Mike had we got that on Mike. Everyone else is like, yeah, we lost. We're like, yeah, they got us once. Good for them. They went on. Congratulations. But
those were also good times when people competed and stuff.
Yeah,
I miss those days.
Maybe one day we'll get them back. So before we sound like really, really old men, but I'm your host, Magic. He's Greg Burnham. This is Fanalysis 101. Check us out on all your podcast platforms, Spotify, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts. We would love reviews, especially ones that come in 5 stars. Please share, subscribe with your friends. Join us Sunday evenings for our live streams of Fanalysis 101, streaming on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Might switch over to TikTok. Still debating on that instead of maybe YouTube or whatever, but we'll see. But right now, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.com. You can search Jeek Nation, Jeek Nation, to give the show a follow and subscription. Thank you for listening and for rocking with us. Until next time, peace.
Peace.